Just wait for that beat to drop. Hey, trust in relationships. Good topic, huh? More and more important in the 20s. So, I like this music, and I keep saying that. But I used to listen to a lot of chill step. I still do. But lo-fi hip hop. I know people call it lo-fi, but I like to call it lo-fi. It just sounds better. Lo-fi just sounds too, I don't know, harsh. Lo-fi just seems to go quite well with the chillness of the music. Anyway, I'll stop talking rubbish. So let's see if I can keep this concise and quick. That's the aim. I'm going to try 10 minutes. Let's see how we do. I'm going to fail. It's going to be double at the end. I know it. Trust in relationships. The thing I did think about this before doing the video is actually, maybe I'll share some of my personal stories, because, it tends to be when you're trying to talk about something or make a point, stories always are the best way to communicate. And I don't know, put some personality into these, videos rather than just kind of talking out things abstract. So yeah, I think maybe secondary to love, trust might be the most important. Maybe it'd be better with desire. But no, I think maybe I'd argue it's even greater than desire. Secondary to love, yeah. So, of course, I think you'll find that any relationship that doesn't really have full-on trust, like proper trust, you could trust someone, but then there's areas you might not trust them in. And if you're not trusting them in some areas, then you don't fully trust them. Let's just lay that out. I don't think you see a huge amount of relationships with loads of trust, especially these days with everyone seems to have lots of anxieties, etc. And of course, if you have more anxieties and more bad experiences in the past, you're less likely to trust people in the future, which is a shame. But it's fundamental, foundation to any relationship. If you don't trust them, then it's nearly game over. You do see some relationships. I mean, I'd say name some successful relationships that you've seen that haven't had trust at the core. And yeah, you might see some relationships where they don't really trust each other that much and have lasted long. Well, probably that's going to be down to, there's obviously specific situations and it's all subjective again, but likely it's going to be down to the fact that maybe they just like being in a relationship and have the fear of not wanting to actually leave that relationship, or they're kind of comfortable, or maybe they just don't trust anyone in general, or maybe they're just very happy not trusting each other. But it won't be an amazing relationship or a very, healthy relationship. It will be a relationship, but massive limitations on it. So yeah, trust is really huge. And of course, it's something that really can only come with time. People say time. I think time's the correlating factor, but it's not the driving force. It's of course, more time goes past, the more likely you're going to trust someone, but it's more about the experiences you've had with each other and what you've shared with each other that kind of really grows trust, right? You build trust through, shared experiences and being able to open yourself up more, etc. to them. That's what really builds trust, less so time. Because I think when people say time heals everything, or in time you'll be better, or in time you'll trust more, etc. They're not wrong, but it's a correlation. It's not the fact that time itself is doing anything. It's more that what happens in that time is really that defines how much you can trust someone or how strong you become, etc. Again, another segue. I love them. Maybe I'll just stop saying segues now. Just naturally revert back. It's just a way of slapping myself on the wrist and going, get back to topic, Sam. So yeah, with the trust, it's really important. It's a cliche that trust is the bedrock to any relationship. But if you don't trust your partner, if you're jealous of other people and them, then it tends to be that very thing that actually drives relationships apart. If you doubt the words they say or the actions that they do, that can come out in quite nasty ways or passive aggressive ways, and that's what tends to then erode the relationship. If you feel like your partner is not talking to you as much, and when they say, oh, it's just because I'm busy, and you trust that, you don't trust what they're saying, you say, oh, you're just lying to me, or you're just making up excuses, of course, then that can be hard to take, and then you can take in a very erosive manner in how you deal with the relationship. You can do it very passive aggressively unless that changes, and eventually over time you get so frustrated that you don't feel like you're a priority, and then of course that can end up with the relationship exploding. But then even if we go on to jealousy, for example, you're jealous, like if you're kind of this obsessive person where you're worried about, I don't know, your girl talking to some guys, or your man talking to girls, like even like on one-on-one basis, then you become quite controlling of that person, and actually that control again tends to almost feel like over time like a cage. And obviously humans like to get out of cages. We don't like to stay in cages. So if you're restricted, then again it just over time erodes the relationship. And you need one of the core parts of relationships is having that sense of independence, a sense of self, rather than this kind of blob. Where two people intertwine into one. As soon as humans start to lose their individuality over time, one of them rebels back, one of them pushes back, they find it too much. You might be there in the exact same place, but then guarantee as soon as some person finds it a bit too much, I find that you guys are finding it a bit too, I don't know, mushy together, and they've lost their sense of self, their sense of what they like doing, who they are, like doing stuff on their own. Then they'll push back, and they'll push back hard, and then that partner will go, what happened? I thought we were like in the same mental space, and we loved each other deeply, and we were completely on the same page, and it completely surprises that person. And I think that's what happens generally with a lot of kind of first time relationships, or relationships when you're young. It tends to be, there seems to, like, at one point you're on the same page, but then someone finds it a bit too much. You've kind of gone into love a bit too hard, and you're almost kind of acting like a 35-year-old married couple. It's like, dude, you're in your early 20s, you're still an individual, you've got your life to live, like you of course you love this person, etc., and you can do all these great things, but it doesn't mean that your entire life has to revolve around each other, and everything that you do has to be with that other person, because guarantee if that is the case, it's likely that relationship will not end well, and it definitely won't survive. So yeah, back to that jealousy thing. If you don't trust your partner around other people, eventually that's going to be the very thing that pushes them away in the first place. It will actually then cause them to, in essence, if you're thinking, oh, I can't let my man go and talk to these girls because he might cheat on me, actually the fact that you don't trust them probably actually increases the chances of that actually happening. So it's actually the complete opposite of what you're trying to prevent. And yeah, the partner almost feels a bit insulted, and I would be, if I was kind of, they had full on jealousy, where they're like, you can't see this person. It's like, one, you don't get to control who I am, who I don't see. And two, that's pretty insulting that you think I would cheat on you behind your back, and what evidence have you got to think anything like that? Not think anything like that, actually believe. Thinking and believing is a very different thing, but believing that would be the case. And I'm getting to the 10-minute mark, but I thought I need to share my kind of personal experiences on this, right? So, and this is a bit sensitive to me, but I'll share it to try and, I don't know, prove the point. When we go to trusting, give your partner the benefit of the doubt. And if you can trust them, then the relationship will be, you give it a way better chance, and can be way more, you can get way more in depth and be way more happier with your partner than if you don't. So and also it just gets you the right result. Anything, if you don't trust them, you just don't get anything else good out of it. Just jealousy just does not get you anywhere good. It just makes you possessive and forces them away. And yeah, some people might go, oh, jealousy just shows that you care. It's like, yeah, but it's governed by your anxiety. And anxieties never do well in relationships. So, yeah, getting to my personal example, I mean now particularly, I always try and approach a relationship with giving them the benefit of the doubt and really kind of starting on a level of trusting grounds. I don't, give them everything, but I certainly, really give them a good amount of trust and belief that, I don't need to care or watch or monitor like who they're seeing or who they're talking to or how they're acting, etc. Because I just trust that they're doing the right thing. And so I had that with one of the girls I was dating at uni, and at that time I was, this is another personal confession, this is my logs, but hey, I was a virgin, and because for me, like, I like sex a lot, and I think it's really important for relationships, and also just because I fucking like it and because it just feels good, but I'm not one of these persons who are obsessed with it, or I never just kind of wanted to have sex for just the biological urge. Like, for me, it was always about having sex with someone who means a lot to me and we connect really well, because I feel like sex is way better when you have that emotional connection rather than just doing it for physical urges, because then you're done and then it's like, that was great, but it can get pretty hollow and unfulfilling. That's again another complete topic, but that was basically the way I viewed it. So the first person I really wanted to have sex with was someone I had a lot of really kind of connected with on a deep level, and so I was dating this girl, and it doesn't mean that I wouldn't do kind of other sexual things, but I wouldn't go all the way. And I said to this girl, before we carry on dating, I just want to warn you that I'm a virgin, and two, I will only have sex when I feel ready and I have that emotional connection. And I know that's obviously a lot for someone, especially you need to take. And if this is not something that you're happy with or something you want to abide by, then it's completely fine. I completely get it, because it's my thing, it's not yours. Then we can just kind of walk away from this relationship and it'll be okay. But that's just something for me that I can't do, and I'll only do when I'm ready. And I just said, so what do you think? And she was saying, no, like, I completely respect you for that, and it's like really sweet and endearing, and I'm more than happy, and whenever you're ready, there's no rush or pressure. Like, I don't want to put the pressure on you, and I think you're an amazing person, so let's continue. And I said, okay, but you have to know that if you're agreeing to this, then you can't expect anything. Like, it'll only happen when it happens. And I said, yeah. And then about a month later, I was walking past her dorm, or like her building, and I thought I'd go in and check, and not check, I think I'd go in and say hey, because I was just walking by, and I was going to get some food, and I thought, I'll just go hey and just say hey to her because I'm walking by the building. And I knocked on the door, and one of her flatmates answered, and he's like a gamer with headphones in, so he had no idea what was going on, and he said yeah, she's in. So I went and knocked on her door, and then opened the door, and I found her in bed with a guy from our course, and so she'd slept with some other guy behind my back, and of course that was really painful. And this guy, like, I think if I had a bit of a jealous mind, I've already gone, yeah, this is the guy I would watch out for, because I knew she hung out with him quite a lot, but I never said anything or would control her or say you can't hang out with him much, or who's this guy. I never questioned it, just went along with, like, it's just another friend, and I have no control, or I shouldn't be able to demand whether she hangs out with him or not, or whatever. So I think with a jealous person, they probably would have, I don't know, really kind of cued on to them being good friends with each other, and maybe then something more. And of course I felt angry and stuff like that. I'm not kind of some one robot or two kind of like emotional monk. I did feel the anger and I did feel betrayed. But and you know, she kind of came after me and she was like, you know, really apologizing deeply and, you know, just saying like, I'm so sorry, and, you know, let's talk about this and stuff like that. And I just basically turned around to her and said to her like, we're not doing this now, go back and I'll call you. And so yeah, I obviously left it like a day or two, and then I called her and just said, let's just meet up to chat. You know, she's like, you know, I'm so sorry, like that was just a real lapse in judgment from me, and you know, I just found it hard with this like no sex thing. And I said, well, one, obviously you could have told me that, you know, you found it hard, and we could have talked about it rather than just like keeping it from me. And two, you know, the trust is broken now. And she was like, you know, can we wait this week? And I said, no, I'm sorry, but you know, we're done. I just need to focus on me now. And I didn't, and I think she kind of got quite emotional, and I think she wanted me to be angry at her in a kind of a way for her to, I don't know, almost get some lashback or some justice punishment against her for what she'd done. But one, I didn't really even give her that response. I didn't let her be angry because of her, because from the point that she'd done the action, you know, we weren't obviously close enough. We hadn't been dating long enough for me to really become really close to her, and therefore I knew who she was, and she was no longer really important to me anymore. So her feelings or whatever she wanted was no longer a priority for me. It was all about how I dealt with it, and I just didn't give her that satisfaction either, and just walked away and never really kind of talked to her again. Well, actually, no, I say that actually when she was, I never avoided it. Actually, when she was in lectures and shit like that, I would, you know, if I was sitting near her, I'd just say hey and just talk to her normally, and just not really kind of, I don't know, I would not become this spiteful person because of her, or spiteful to her, you know, like I would not change who I was because of what she'd done to me, you know. And I think the fact that, I mean, also if a person who does want to kind of get a bit of a perv back, but of course the fact that you don't act too phased by it, you know, almost kind of is a punishment in themselves for them, because they're like, why are they finding this so okay? But for me, like that whole thing was like, maybe someone, or a natural response would be, well, you know, I had someone sleep behind my back who I was, you know, in a relationship with, and therefore I just can't trust people, and I'm going to become way more jealous and judge and controlling of my future partners to make sure that doesn't happen again. That would be like a natural response, and I completely get that. But for me, like, actually trusting that person and being that open, like, worked, and it was great, because the fact is I found out who that person was. I found out that she was a person who could, in essence, cheat on me, and I'm glad I found that out sooner rather than later, because if I had been controlling and I had been jealous, yeah, maybe our relationship would have lasted another like 3 or 4 months. But eventually down the line, that part of her would have surfaced, especially if I was being controlling and jealous. She probably wouldn't have liked that, and then the relationship would have ended anyway, and it wouldn't have been a good one. So I was way happier that actually she showed me who she was earlier on, because I let her, I gave her an environment to be who she was, and she showed me that, and she showed me the ugly side, which I wasn't a fan of. And then that was great, because then I didn't waste my time with her, and I could move on. And also, yes, it hurt, and it hurt for about a week or so, but then I was able to kind of get on with my life and carry on and date new people and stuff like that. And also I just felt like, yes, I was able to get over it, because yes, I felt like I did the right thing, you know, and I made myself open and vulnerable, and yes, it hurt, but my core was strong enough, and my mentality was strong enough that I was able to survive it, and not even survive it. It wasn't so much survive. I wasn't just made distraught by it. It didn't change me. And that's like the way I've approached all relationships now. And you know, I'm lucky I have the best relationship I've ever had at the moment, and we have an unbelievably trusting relationship. And there are certain acts that I can call upon, which I'm not going to mention in this video, that really show how much trust we have between each other. And I absolutely love her and adore her for that. And I'm so grateful that we do have this level of trust, because yeah, it's really amazing. And with a relationship which has had a lot of troubles, the fact that we've had trust has probably been the saving grace for us, and what's made it so amazing. It is the cornerstone for us of the relationship, you know, entwined with love. And so yeah, I did get to 20 minutes. Well, you know, I thought to myself, well, I need to give you guys the story at the same time, and I hope you guys found that useful and you can understand where I'm coming from. You know, it's kind of been the real thing that's inspired me to think in that way, and obviously view trust in that way. So yeah, I hope you have a beautiful day. I'll see you guys next time.